back to the Overseas Famous Podcast, Season 6, Christmas episode. We're putting a bunch of shit together in one episode because it's been super fucking busy. Producer Justin James in the house. Just what's cracking?
Nada. Just ready for the holiday season, ready to enjoy it with the kids. You know
Nice.
what I'm saying? And ready to relax, play some video games.
Oof, I like that. I mean, yeah, like video games, it doesn't get old. I feel like I want to play video games. We play video games together. It's just a good time. People all hate on adults playing video games, and I don't get that whole argument.
Well, especially because we play to like turn our brains off a little bit.
Yes, exactly.
You know?
Like sometimes it's like to de-stress.
100%.
Like, yeah. Anyway, Justin and I were talking. How can we get our podcast? How can we get the Overseas Famous Podcast to the top of the charts? And it's difficult because you need like tons of people to listen. You need topics that are just huge. So the things that we kind of came up with. All right. So like, what are the top podcasts? Murder Mystery, correct? Like that's the biggest podcast.
Well, it's isn't it? I mean, I'm not taking a stance here. I'm just saying I know a lot of women that love like the murdering of the husband stories.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know, like I know that's popular.
No, I totally agree. I think that's definitely something fun. Did my voice change over there?
Yeah. It actually felt like a little louder and clearer.
It's clear now?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, this podcast, we are off to a start. So yes, murder mysteries, definitely big. However, I've never murdered anyone. Hopefully you have not either. So I don't really have the basis. And overseas murders, there's been a few, but like you can't put a whole show together on overseas basketball murder mysteries. There's been like 2 in the entire existence of overseas sports. So it's really tough to put that pedestal.
Is
Money
that a fact?
business.
Did you research that? Is that a fact?
I did.
Are there 2?
I wanted to do a whole entire segment about murder mysteries and then I was like, there's only 2. So I was going to just do weird shit that happened overseas, but that's what the podcast is anyway. So I was like, all right, fuck it. I'm just going to do,
Are you getting this full motorcycle right now that I have?
No, you got AirPods in?
The AirPods are solid then, of blocking out sound.
I was going to say they're blocking out everything.
Good. Just need to check that.
Yeah. If someone is listening on their phone and not watching on YouTube, they would never know that you were outside. Never know. They would fucking no idea. They're just sitting there like, hey, here's a guy who's just talking inside on a desk.
They're gonna know when my teeth start chattering.
Yeah, that's
cold.
Yeah, it is very cold. So anyway, money business, those have been overdone. It's just that they're trying to find that niche. And then you get in a sports podcast and like, how do you become a top flight sports podcast? That is the major question of how you become a top flight sportscast. So I know there's a big podcast out there and you need your brother.
Hey,
what's up, guys?
That's what we're doing. All right. This is what we need. So these are the segments that we need. So we need a podcast where 2 brothers who played professional sports are in the same leagues are now currently on a podcast. So I thought that would be a good start. So Jeff, I'm just going to run you through a series of questions. Indulge me, if you will. So we could just kind of check the boxes and make sure that we're doing everything we need to do to make this podcast as successful as possible. All right. So let's get my notes real quick.
I like original thought.
Yes. All right. So real quick. First question. What pop star are you currently dating?
Oh, wow. I'm trying to keep that real secret, Kev. I don't know if that's fair for me to share on this thing that's probably listened to by tens of people.
Tens of people. I guarantee your wife isn't listening. So you're not dating a pop star. All right.
You know, Courtney Love said no. Is she still a pop star?
I do like the Courtney Love reference.
Yeah.
If Kurt Cobain was alive right now, he would not be happy to hear that.
No.
All right. Second question. Super Bowl rings. I have 0. How many do you have?
Like legitimately earned? Still 0.
All right. Guys, Not gonna lie, we're not off to a great start right now. We're not off to a great start, fellas. This is not a good start. But you know
All right,
what?
I'm not helping you.
We're gonna push through.
Give
We're
me
gonna
the
push through.
third time, 3 strikes. Give me another shot.
All right. So, third question: how many magazine covers have you appeared on?
Oh, self-published? Those count, right?
I would think so. I have one right here. Hello. Hey guys,
Oh, that's
only
a
a
good
few
book right there.
only a few days before Christmas, and Amazon delivers super quick. So, know what the funny thing about this whole podcast is
I think on my Little League pictures, you
That's the
got
one.
those fake magazines. Does that count?
yeah, I was gonna
That's the
say.
one.
I was gonna say, did Dad pay the extra $20 to
Yeah.
kind of like put you on a magazine cover? Yeah.
Yeah.
I was a big fan of actually, I'm not a big fan of it. And I I started this off wrong.
Magazines are overrated, by the way. They don't even
Magazines-
exist anymore.
But I hate the kids, and this must make me so like, because I did this all the time. I hate the kids who wear the hats and like the hat comes to here and the rest of their front of their hair is sticking out. Yeah, like that. And like and it's like sitting on top of your head. Now, the picture I had when I was 12 years old for Little League, that's exactly what I was doing. So I'm just like,
Your head was probably too big.
that's probably true too. I mean, listen,
Well, to be
Little
honest,
hat.
with the hair you have now, I'm surprised you still don't do that because you don't want to mess it up. You know what I'm saying? You have that hair.
listen,
I'm quite jealous of that. I dislike Kevin because he gets good hair and mine's falling out. It's very
I have like a mullet too. And I will say that Joanna at least 3 to 4 times a day is like, go cut your hair. Like, I hate your hair. Go cut it. And
No,
I'm
I
like,
love it.
I love it too. And I'm like,
keep it going, man.
That's what I said. I was like, there's
If
going to be
only.
a day. There's going to be a day where I'm not going to be able to do things like this. And she's just like, I don't like it. I'm like, well, it's tough. So, yeah, we got a lot to get through today. So this is a crushed up season premiere, Christmas episode, and mailbag episode. So we have all of this that we're combining into about 35 minutes of time, and it's going to be action packed with a lot of fun. We've already had some fun. Now, here's the thing: if you already are like, this is not fun, probably just turn it off, because like at this point, like I think we gave you the best we're gonna go. So if you're not having it by this point, just fucking
Let me go ahead and log out.
just exit out. I'll be sitting here by myself. It will be fine. All right.
Well, that little speech made people want to keep listening. If we're being honest, the perfect sell.
Right. All right. So just
under promise, over deliver. That's
exactly
the message we're trying to.
That
exactly.
is. All right. So just has the questions. Just has our mailbag questions. We're gonna go through, answer some of these questions. Then we're going to get in. We're going to bring Chelsea in. We're going to talk a little bit about Christmas overseas. Then we're going to do our little, Christmas. I'm going to do a Christmas shot, and then we're going to move on, and that will be the episode. So let's go. Just what questions do you have for us today? These are questions that were asked by actual readers, actual listeners of the podcast that were sent to, either DM or email over the course of the, I guess we finished our last episode in the beginning of October, so the past like 2 to 3 months. So, just what do we got?
All right. So, are these in any particular order? Like, is number one for a reason?
I don't know. All of these are in no particular order.
Okay. I mean, you didn't prepare.
I put them in an order that I thought would be funny.
They're in order.
Yeah, all right, keep them in order.
They're in order.
Let's go.
Good.
All right.
Yeah.
So
it's really funny that you said you put them in order to be funny, because that would actually go the opposite of what people feel about the podcast. Because the very first question is that your book is really funny, but the podcast isn't. And why is that?
So the first question is, your book is really funny, but
That's
the podcast, okay. But the podcast isn't that funny. Why?
The question is why.
The why. So why? And I've gotten this, I saw this question. I was a little like sad at first. I mean, it took me probably, a few days to kind of get over this one. I was like, damn, like the podcast is not funny. And I'm like, but here's the thing. Like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. Like, I have Zoom and I just record it and then have like brilliant people like Justin and John and Michaela put it together and make it into something. and I just interview people. So I almost said I was going to step back and not be the story and allow the guest to be the story. And we have a guest on every single time. So if it's just me and Jeff and just like bullshitting for a while, the episode's going to be funnier. Like it's just going to be a naturally funnier episode because we all know each other. We're all laughing. But like I'll have a guest on and I've met them maybe 30 to 40 seconds before we go on the air. And I'm like, I don't really know them. Like I'm trying to get some questions. I'm trying to get, the things that people think would be funny. If I was like throwing out jokes and they're like, what? I'd be like, oh shit, this isn't going well. So I feel like I'm just try to just make the guest the main focal point.
What also goes to your seriousness. I mean, there is a serious aspect to the message you're trying to spread and get across,
Correct. Yeah, I agree. There's my serious side and there's my, other side. And the other side sometimes takes over, the serious side sometimes takes over. So
and
right
let's say if you look at those stories in your book, like you cannot replicate the ridiculous stuff that happens in overseas basketball. Like that's the hilarious thing. Like and every overseas basketball has seen it, and people who haven't be like, is that really how it is? I'm like, yes, 1,000%. Yes, that's how it is. So it's hard to, unless you're just telling those stories all the time, it's kind of like that's the part of it.
Yeah, 100%. Like you can't replicate it. So like me going on a show, like you have to prepare stuff and try to be funny if you're going to be funny. Like that's like what makes the podcast funny when you're preparing. When I'm just like preparing questions that are serious and talking about overseas, sometimes the stories become funny, but like I want them to share it. And if you're a person you're interviewing is not a funny person, they're telling the stories. It could be a hilarious story if I told it, but for them, they're like, oh, and then I dropped it. And I'm like, oh shit, like this could be so funny if you told it right, but like you're not telling it right. Nothing against any of our guests. You guys are all fucking awesome. All right, just next question.
No pressure.
Next question.
Can you share a memorable or challenging moment from your experiences either in interview in interviewing someone overseas? So when you're interviewing someone overseas, can you share us with a memorable or challenging moment?
That one, something challenging. I mean, like overseas stories in general, and Jeff can chime in on these because he's seen a ton. But like I think I just kind of hit on it, what I was talking about before. When people are like, I'm trying to bait them into be funny or more entertaining, and they're not that person. They're like more of a serious person. Sometimes you just have interviews that kind of fall flat. And I will say this is the toughest. This is the toughest part of interviewing people, when someone you interview is like, you'll be like, ask a 4-part question and you'll go in and be like, the craziest thing that ever happened overseas, what happened? And they're like, yeah, I was at the Eiffel Tower and like a guy dropped his phone off it. And you're like, oh my God, that's crazy. He's like, yeah. And you're like, oh shit, like that, there has to be more to the story. Like, were you watching? He's like, yeah, it fell. I don't know what happened to it. And you're like, oh, okay. It's like, that's a fucking hilarious story of watching. If I was telling that story, if I watched someone drop a phone off the Eiffel Tower, I guarantee that story would be hilarious if I told it, because I would give every little detail and I would make fun of the person, and I would I would have left the Eiffel Tower and found the phone and like held it up and taken a picture. It would have been hilarious. Like, you dropping your phone off the Eiffel Tower is legitimately the funniest thing that could happen. And that's never happened on a show. Like, no one's ever dropped that story. I just made up right now. But it would be hilarious if someone dropped their phone off the Eiffel Tower. So if you have an Eiffel Tower phone story, please.
If you have a phone and are near the Eiffel Tower, we have a challenge for you.
Yeah, here's the deal.
And you will guarantee an interview.
You're on the show, and you're going to tell the story, and it's going to be hilarious. Just throw that shit over the end. Jump shot.
But the sad part is, like, some of the stories, as hilarious they are, like, it's also pretty sad when you do something like, oh, my lights got turned out. I didn't get paid this month, or we were laughing about like somebody pulled out a knife at a game or something. Just like hilarious at the time, or I got a faucet sink thrown at me on the floor of a game. Like, those things are kind of hilarious, but also like, wow, that's kind of real too.
That is a good Jeff story of like the faucet. Someone ripped the faucet from the bathroom and threw it at my brother in, where was it? Turkey. Yeah.
So it was, I was Galatasaray and Fenerbahce, and two just same city, just like hate each other. They literally had riot police like in the middle sections. There's like, think of First Union and like riot police in the half court and then both ends, road flares indoors. Like it was a absolute, I could never think of that. Nothing I've ever seen in my life. And just like, and I want to continue on, but like, so I get in, I'm being me, being overly aggressive, and I kind of get a little mini shoving, fake basketball fight with their other center after a play, and just turn and just thunk behind me, and like literally I look and it's a friggin' faucet from the bathroom just hit the floor. They would have knocked me out. It had hit me, and like I was just like, at the time I remember kind of did like the European thing, like kind of bow, like clap it to them, like gave them a little like please don't kill me kind of thing, like. And then
it's joke. I kid.
Yeah. But it was at the time afterwards, it's absolutely hilarious because when one of my teammates got hit by a coin and you could hear it coming and just thunk right off his head, and I was like, oh. It was just like kind of hilarious. But at the time, it's like, oh my god, we're gonna die here today.
That is a really funny story to hear, especially when you talk about the. And I think that's what makes the story funny when you mention that you heard the coin coming. Like it was going so fast and it thunked off your teammate's head. Like if it hit him in the wrist,
like
you'd be like,
you could see it. And they had the thing, but it came from the end line, so it was like it had an angle to it. So someone really, and usually like the stereotype is the European don't have good arms. Kev, how many guys you play with are like the best athletes you see in the world? You literally give them a ball and they be like, meh, and they throw it like that. You're like, what? And it's just because it's not a lot of throwing sports over there,
No.
So it's when I try to teach him some baseball, we had a wiffle ball over there. It was like, oh my god, this guy can jump from the foul line and he literally throws like and like jumps when he throws it. So it's just but somebody must have played handball in that Turkish arena and fired one.
Oh, it's so great. All right, Just, what else you got for us?
All right. How do you select guests for the podcast, and what criteria do you consider when choosing individuals to feature?
Wow, that is
direct relatives.
Yes, exactly. Friends first. Like immediately friends.
Immediate family, blood. Yeah.
Honestly, it's weird because when the podcast first started, I was reaching out to guys I knew. Then as the podcast kind of got more traction and got bigger, I started reaching out to like bigger players, and they were like, sure, I'll come on. I've heard of this. This looks cool. You're the only overseas podcast that exists. I'll come on. So I was getting a lot of overseas guys. Now it's like I'm getting in like the DMs, it's like people are writing me and being like, hey, like, can I come on the podcast? And I think that's the coolest thing is now people are writing me and be like, I want to be on the podcast. And like they're big time players, like 10,000 followers on Instagram. So honestly, I try, as I'm trying to grow the podcast and as we continue, it's like I'm trying to look for guys with bigger markets. Like I want their markets to be big. I want them to be able to share and stuff, and then gain more access, more followers, more eyes on us. So that's really.
Do you ever do you ever just shoot your shot and just send emails out to Mark Cuban or whoever?
I've sent emails to ridiculous amounts of people, and 99.9% of the time, no one writes me back.
Oh, it takes every
once like occasionally someone will write me back. Like I got random things from like random. I can't even remember. I want to say it's like someone in Andre Iguodala's camp wrote and was just kind of like, "Hey, what's like tell me about this." So that was pretty cool. But then I wrote them and told them what it was, and crickets after that. So I was like, oh. So hopefully this episode will propel us to where like I can just reach out to like, oh, cool, Tom Hanks, yeah, definitely, I'll come on your overseas podcast and talk about.
I think we're already at that status.
I think so too. All right, so yes. Let me write in my notes. Tom Hanks.
It was an S.
Yeah.
ANKS, right?
Tom Hanks at gmail.com. Got it. All right.
I think there's a dot in there. I think it's T.Hanks.
T.Hanks. All right. Tom Hanks is definitely coming on the show. All right. What else do you got, Justin?
So in the same regard, what inspired you to start the Overseas Famous podcast?
I think it was Jeff and I think it was Jeff was instrumental in a lot of the stuff, because I wrote my book because he was like the story he told about the coin there is like, we used to tell stories like that, and then I would tell a ridiculous story and he'd be like, we'd laugh and stuff, and then I'd tell another story, he'd be like, that's fucking crazy. Like, we would just kind of go, and I'd be like, Jeff told me, he's like, you're a lightning rod for like everything that happened. And a lot of us are, like, a lot of athletes, we like everything you experience. Jeff talked about, you experience the good, the bad, and the ugly if you're playing overseas. Like, not many guys have gone through and it's been perfect, and not many guys have gone through and it's been horrible. So like, it's you're always in the middle. Like, there's always going to be crazy shit that happens, and there's always going to be funny things that happens, and there's always going to be good times and bad. And like, with overseas basketball, it's amplified by like a billion, because you're like, all the other factors, you're in a foreign country, you're dealing with like language barriers and crazy fans and
culture and all that. It's
exactly.
You played, I mean, Kevin, as you know, had a very unique trip through Eastern Europe, Northeastern Europe, like Australia, Korea. Like, you went to some crazy places where, I had some times in Poland and Turkey in the D League, but like, I played 3 years in France. It's pretty normal over there. Like, the paychecks were on time. The league was normal. There wasn't like.
All right, Just, next question.
All right. Could you highlight a particularly unexpected story that emerged from one of your episodes, or something that happened during your career? Like, did anybody have a meltdown mid-interview, or something crazy?
I can't remember the name right now. There was a guy, and it was awesome. Like, in the moment, I was like, what the fuck? But like, looking back, it was the same thing Jeff was talking about. Like, looking back, you're kind of like, that's hilarious. And there was a guy I interviewed, and he played in like the G League, he played overseas, and I think he played in the NBA for a little bit. And he was like, he took the interview, and he was on his phone, and like, he was like, let me go outside and do this. So he went outside, but it was like a nice day, but he was sitting in like a lawn chair in this huge field, and then behind him was like a really busy road, and there was cars like whizzing by, and I was like, in my mind, I'm just like, what the fuck is going on right now? Like, there was just so much going on, and I'm like trying to do the interview, and it was like his sound was fading in and out. It was like kind of chopping up every once in a while, but then like, he was like, the cars were whizzing by, and Justin, how we just talked about like how I can't hear the motorcycle or anything.
Yeah,
I could hear everything. Like, it was like, he'd be like, yeah, I was in the G League, and well, then, yeah.
How do you not bring that up? How do you not ask? How do you not ask what's going on?
He was like a bigger name. This is like my second or third year, and he was like a bigger name. So I was like, I'm just gonna deal with.
Was he on like the median of like 95 or something?
I don't know. He very well could have. Like, he was. I think he was in Atlanta, but I was like, this is a really busy road. Like, it wasn't like you were sitting outside. Like, if I went outside right now, my street is not. It's like a suburban street. It's not crowded. So if I sat by the street, like, maybe a car would go by every once in a while, but like, it was like, it was like 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So it was like cars were stopping and like making it was like beeping. I'm like, this is wild that's going on. So that was my craziest unexpected story that emerged from the podcast.
I like that. That's a great answer.
Yeah. Thanks. I read these questions once before.
Yeah, but you may not have had an actual story for it. Doesn't mean that you could have an answer. That's a good one.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm a good test taker.
Yeah, apparently. In your opinion, what role does your podcast play in the overseas community?
I think like being the real first overseas podcast, like, now there's more and people are doing more, and there's more guys doing them and girls doing overseas podcasts, and that's great. And I'm like, with that, I'm just like, go do you. That's awesome. Great. But I think the biggest role that I think it's played is it's built my network. So like, all of the shit that I'm doing now is like, it's amplified because I've like had this ability to meet all of these different people. And I think that's what's been the coolest thing, is I've met so many people, and then through those people I've created connections, and I have this huge network of overseas athletes now, and through Instagram and all these, it's like exploded. So now I have all these connections, and now in the business world, now I'm utilizing those connections to build up all the things that I'm doing. So I think it's like the podcast has helped me grow my business. But at the same time, I think it's also given eyes on overseas sports and allowed overseas sports to kind of like thrive and be a thing. Like people know more about overseas sports than they did prior to starting to listen to the episode. If that makes sense.
Well, yeah, well, to me, I enjoy the podcast. It's the same reason as your book. As somebody who is not ever involved like you two in the sports end of things, Jeff, man, it is loud over there, bro. It's like you're in the median of high school with the chatter
in high school right now. It's like third period over there.
and as somebody who is not in sports like you two, where I enjoy just the culture, the stories, the interesting perspective that others have that I will never have.
Yeah, I agree. All right. What else you got?
And I would add
go ahead,
to that.
Jeff.
Hopefully this is a little better.
Yeah.
I would add to that is that talking about your mission, and obviously initially it started as a way for overseas guys to kind of commiserate on like the silly stuff, but now getting them thinking about that next step and what happens after this and sharing the stories. Like for me, it's always been like, God, I finished basketball. Now what? I had my degree and everything. It was like, what do people do? Like, I don't even know what people do when they go to work. Like we came from a family of teachers, so we had no business experience or how to turn anything into our next step. So I think just that transition part is huge. I think every overseas athlete needs to be thinking about that pretty hard.
100%.
I agree. All right, last one. How do you stay informed about international trends to make sure your content remains relevant?
I think like Instagram. I think that's the biggest thing. Is just I honestly, it's just Instagram. You just go through Instagram and you kind of see what's out there. You see what's going on. Like all this things, all the big news stories. Like I'll hear from a person or someone will send me a link. And that's the cool thing is like through Instagram, I'll go in through the DMs of Overseas Famous and in my account. And like every day I have like 15 to 20 DMs and people are asking me things or like just like sharing videos or reels and I'll try to share them on my story. But a lot of times that's how I hear the news. So like when Kemba went over to Monaco, that's like where I heard is someone sent it to me like a minute after it was released and I put it up and people were like acting like I broke the story. I was like, I didn't break the story. This is fucking Bleacher Report or whoever did. I tried to like tag everyone who I just shared it and people were like, whoa. So I think that's just scouring the realms of Instagram and that's really it.
It's the best source of news if you're cautious with your thinking.
Yeah. So we again, this is very guy heavy. So Chelsea's joining us. Chelsea's here. Chelsea, what's up? How are you doing? Welcome to the back to the podcast. So Chelsea's joining us. We're gonna the next segment right now. We're gonna break down a little bit of holidays overseas. Producer Just is rolling out. So it's like tag team. Just is rolling out. Chelsea's rolling in. We're going to do a segment with Chelsea and we're just going to go through and talk about like what happens during the holiday season overseas. So Chelsea, again, thanks for joining us. So your experience overseas, were you in situations where, you were able to get home for the holidays? Were you in situations where you had to stay for the holidays? Take us through your holiday experience overseas.
So every year I went overseas, they flew me back home except during COVID. So my last season that I was in Portugal, they were like, y'all got to stay here just because it was so hard to go back and forth with all the testing. And so but when they flew me home, it wasn't always like a direct flight back home. I remember one time I had to spend the night in Germany and then I ended up like getting home like really late on Christmas Eve because I was in Portugal, but they flew me through Germany and I spent a night in Germany and then I connected the next day. And then it was just an absolute shit show at the airport in Germany on Christmas Eve trying to get home.
So that is good because Jeff, you've experienced this too, where Chelsea, this is my brother Jeff. He played overseas.
Hey, Chelsea.
Nice to meet you.
So Jeff played when you were in Malouse, you were home every year. Because I remember I think the first year I was still like the first year I was in the G League and we were able to come home. And then
Right.
so when you were coming home, like I was the G League, we had like a few days off, but
Sure.
like you in Malouse used to come home and spend like a week at home.
We had up a week 2 years in a row in France. I know, well, my first year in Poland, gave us 4 days. And of course, the night we're leaving the airport, it gets like 10 feet of snow. So we missed our flight, and I was connecting in London. And so missed my flight home. So I'm in London overnight. And thankfully got a flight the next day. But it was like that night, me and all my buddies from Penn, and we're all going to get together with this big night plan to go out. And then suddenly that didn't happen. I remember being so disappointed. Like, God, I've been away. My first time was like 5 straight months. And here we are in like 10 feet of snow because you could barely get to the airport in like a little car. And it was like, oh my God. So that sucked. But yeah, I got that. I mean, but you can talk about I had it 2 years in a row, but our Christmas dinners at Shoney's in Fayetteville, North Carolina. that was a special time. Do that 2 years in a row.
So Jeff and I played together my rookie year, and if you read my book, you saw this. Like Jeff and I played together in the G League my first year. So we were roommate, or no, we weren't roommates because I had you had your own room. You were like a higher echelon. I had to have a roommate, and like Coach D was like, you could babysit all the idiots on the team. So I was like, just these guys were coming in. And I'm like, oh, it was like they all kept getting released. I was like, I'm bad luck for these guys.
You had quite a
haul. Yeah. So
and it was hilarious when Coach tells me, like, Kev's there, and he was a late draft pick in the D League draft, and we didn't know. And I remember Coach telling me before, like, hey, I'm going to give him his best shot. I'm like, hey, he's going to earn it. I think he's going to earn it. And we let it there. Kev plays awesome during tryouts, does a great job. And Coach, last day of the kind of tryouts, he kind of, whatever, the preseason, he kind of walks over to me. He's like, all right, I got some bad news there. And I'm like, oh. And he's like, and he's kind of starting him and hawing. If you know Coach D, the way he spoke, this, and I can't really understand where he's going. He's like, he can't room with you though. He's got to be a roommate. He's a rookie. He's got to have a roommate. I'm like, hold on. What are you talking about? He basically just, buried the lead that Kevin made the team, but we weren't going to room together. It was like, all right, so we're in apartments, a block away from each other in the same complex, but yeah, I can't room with him. No, I'm happy. He's on the team. I'm excited. So that was that was Coach D at his finest.
Well, that was like that first year. I remember it's like college, you always got home. Chelsea, did you go home in college?
Yeah, always. And I only live like 45 minutes from home.
I was going to say, where do you, in Chelsea, I don't know, where did you, how you were close to school when you were in college?
Yeah, I was like 45 minutes away from home.
Mm-hmm.
That's like...
I did have an experience. So in Iceland, our team was in like, I had broke my hand in October, had not played, wasn't going to be clear to play till right after Christmas. And we had a big night out the night before I was going home for Christmas. Didn't think nothing of it. Just left my place a mess. Knew I was coming back. And then all of a sudden I get home and I get waived. Like my team lets me go. It was in dead last place. And the team that's in first place wants to sign me. And all my stuff is just there though. Like I was living in a house at the time, but I had no idea. Like I was like pretty much just jumping from the last place team to the first place team, and all my stuff was just stuck, and it was just a mess trying to get it all back. And
that's insane.
So that was something.
How did that go? How'd that next game go?
You
guys?
Yeah, not good because not good at all.
There's nothing to do about it, but it's not.
Yeah.
It was a lot of
just switch sides.
Right.
That's crazy. I look at like even that G League, like that first year where we come back, and I think it was Christmas Day we had to be back, right, Jeff? Like
Christmas Day we were back.
Yeah, like Christmas Day we had practice, and then we left to go to Fayetteville.
We got to Fayetteville. Christmas Day we practiced like middle of the day, and drove down to Fayetteville that night. So there we had dinner, and it was for me my second year in a row having dinner in the Shoney's in Fayetteville.
That's
Christmas
so crazy.
dinner, which is kind of it's.
And like we're in Fayetteville, North Carolina. It's not like if we were in like a cool town, we would go out, and like we were NBA players, we'd go out for like some fancy dinner, and it would be like feel festive. But like there's just nothing festive about walking from your hotel to like a shit restaurant to just sit there and be like,
no
all
matter
right,
what the day is. Yeah.
yeah, to be like,
I-
yeah, it's
when we were in when I had to do my Christmas in Portugal, I was with my other American, Maria Blaschewski.
oh
And oh my God. So we like drive down to the Algarve. It's like the very bottom south part of Portugal. It's like beautiful. We're like, you know, we're making the most of it. There's still like some COVID regulations and all that and stuff. And we had stopped at the store to like get some snacks and drinks and whatever. But we were like, let's just have mimosas this morning. So we stopped to get some champagne, and lo and behold, we're like making our mimosas. We each like have a couple. We like drink the whole bottle. I'm like, I don't feel anything. Like, do you? And she's like, dude, this is so crazy. Like, I don't feel anything. Well, by then I had posted like a cheers of us on my story on Instagram with this champagne. We were drinking kids champagne the entire time. Had no idea. We had accidentally bought the kids champagne with no alcohol in it. It was
here's your Shirley Temples, ladies.
Yeah. They're athletes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Can't
yeah. They
give
were
me
probably like,
alcohol.
listen, we know you guys don't drink. That is
Yeah.
a weird stereotype. They're like, you guys don't drink alcohol. I'm like, okay, yeah.
Listen, we were
See you
down
after the
there.
game.
Yeah, no, it's hilarious. So my teammates were like, because we're like, we don't feel anything. And we're like, all right, let's just leave, whatever. And then like 30 minutes later, they're like all killing me on Instagram. Like, oh my God, y'all are so crazy. It was hilarious.
I remember, so I spent a Christmas in Australia because
Yeah.
like we couldn't come home. I mean, that when we played shortly, I think we played like the 28th or something. So I was in Australia, and I remember just like it was kind of a homesick moment, because usually you're able to get home or at least have some semblance of something. That was like you weren't there, but it was a very family, like, you know, Australia. Chelsea played in,
Yeah.
it was like the people on the team made you feel great. So you were always like around someone. I got invited to Christmas dinner, everything, but it was like I remember Christmas Eve just sitting there, and we had wrapped our palm tree with lights, and like that was our Christmas tree, and we were just kind of hanging out there. And I remember we were like listening to Christmas music. I turned the air on real high, and then it was like Christmas morning. I walked outside. It was 110 degrees,
I was gonna
and
say.
we had a pool party for Christmas dinner. I was like, this is just, and it just didn't feel right, but it was still awesome. It was just like, and I remember thinking like, you're gonna laugh about this one day, but I was pissed that day. But like, I knew I would laugh about it one day, because it was something you'll never really experience again. It was definitely something a little crazy, but at the same time, like the culture and the country, some people just make you feel at home. Like they're gonna be like, whatever, we're gonna take care of you, and that's huge.
I was there in Australia. I was in Sydney for Thanksgiving, and they literally researched. It was a family that I was close to, and they literally researched like what an American traditional Thanksgiving dinner, what we drink, everything is, and literally prepared it all and like threw a big surprise party for me. It was like it just was like so heartfelt and so welcoming. Like
That's so cool.
never experienced. Yeah, it was so nice. Because it's not
That's
food that they're used to making. So like it was such an effort to find it and make it all, then go to the grocery store and get all the ingredient. That was so special.
that's awesome. All right. So we told a little Christmas stories. We've had our little mailbag. We talked a little bit. Now, Chelsea, I don't know, and I'm prepared, but no one else has to do this. And I think like last year it's because, truth be told, it's 6:13 on a Wednesday. And we're just like, I was honestly like, all right, I have to get this podcast going again. And I got a lot of messages like, where's the Christmas episode? Where's the Christmas episode? I was like, oh shit. Like, it makes it nice, because I feel like I was like, okay, people are really listening. Like, they're like, where's your Christmas episode? It's fun. So I was like, all right. So I put up yesterday on Instagram, and I got a few videos already. And if I can splice them in by tomorrow and get this all going, then we'll do it. If I can't, then I'll try to post them, later in the week, just on Instagram so everyone can see it. But what I do is I do a shot. So I told the story last year. I do a shot every Christmas Eve. I started doing it when I was in high school with a friend of mine. We would sit there and I would go to his Christmas party, and we would have a shot. And it was just like a cool little thing, and we would say like a little toast. And I've been doing it for years and years and years, and I do it every Christmas Eve. And this is our second year doing on the Overseas Famous podcast. So I got some Stag, which isn't like a pretty. See, I like bourbon a lot, and I'll drink bourbon. And Stag, like people are like go nuts for this stuff, and I'm like, it's all right. Like I've had better. So I'm going.
They might not send you a bottle. Yeah.
So I fucking love Stag.
Thank you.
The official bourbon of the Overseas Famous podcast. So Chelsea, if you don't have anything close by, don't even worry about it.
Oh, I can get something real quick. Give me
Go
like
ahead.
10, give me a minute.
No problem.
I am in a high school. As we discussed.
Jeff is in a high school, so he will not be getting. We've established that there is nothing that we're doing in that high school that is going to be productive. But yeah, like so, I even got the. If you can see, I got the Phillies
right there.
Phillies 1980 World Series, which is every time I think about that Christmas, it's tough, but like it's fun at the same time because you like just get to relive those memories and those happy moments you had. But like Jeff and I were home, like went to Fayetteville, had Christmas dinner, and the next day, or like had Christmas dinner there. And the next day on the 26th, we were playing and we got a message.
After shoot around.
Yeah, after shoot around that our grandfather, I mean, we knew our grandfather was very sick. He was in the hospital. We saw him before we left. We're probably like, we may not see him again. And then he had passed. So I remember Jeff and I were like sad, and we ended up, it was crazy because then we ended up flying home that day.
After the game.
Yeah, after the game.
We played the game.
And then we drove back to Roanoke, and then from Roanoke, I think we drove back to Roanoke, and then from Roanoke we flew home, and we were home for like a few days. So like, it was almost like comforting to be home because those are tough times to deal with when you're away, when you deal with a loss. But like being able to get back home and be with your family and stuff, being close enough. Like if we were overseas, we would have had to figure it out because teams over there weren't as understanding, but teams here. Were more understanding of it, and plus they were like, I mean, it was like an hour and change flight home.
Yeah, it was a short flight.
Yeah, Roanoke's only like 5 hours away. All right, what we got, Chelsea?
Let's do it. This is the official sponsor of
there we go.
Let's get it. Let's get
it. True millennial. Well done.
All right, so here's how. Go ahead.
Let me get us going here.
Jeff's gonna hold up his imaginary glass. All right.
Fireball.
Thumbs up.
All right. So what this toast is I talk to, my friend's dad used to say this all the time and talk about, like reflecting on your success and reflecting on the things that are good in your life. So that was like a big thing. Like, well, there's so much negativity out there, and like to reflect and be like, okay, there's people who have it worse than you. There's people who are dealing with things. Let's remember them because you're living a life where you're able to do things like this. So let's remember them, and especially overseas, people might be homesick right now. I mean, it's the 20th of December. People might be sad. People might be wishing they were home. So it goes to all that we lost, to all that we gained, and to all of those who are living with pain. We salute you from the Overseas Famous podcast. Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
Shit sucks.
Woo!
I'm joking.
Oh.
Stag, the official bourbon of the Overseas Famous podcast, and Fireball.
In the old Fireball.
Well done.
Well, Chelsea, Jeff, it's funny because I talk to both of you all the time off the podcast. So it's great to have us all together to kind of share that moment. It's great. For all that we're doing, we all three of us played overseas basketball. All three of us played professionally, and I love the fact that we are able to do this and almost build a community of overseas athletes. So if you're overseas right now and you're bummed and you wish you were home, just remember, all three of us have dealt with it. All three of us have been away for the holidays. Just remember why you're doing it, because the cause is greater than one day. And I always think, we get sad for one day. And when you really think about it, the other 364 days are fucking awesome as an overseas athlete, as a professional athlete. So always remember that one day is not going to surpass those other 364. keep grinding. It's going to be upsetting. You'll get through it. And then we salute you from Overseas Famous. So
Keep going.
keep going.
Well done.
Well, everyone, thank you so much for joining us. The season premiere, the mailbag, and the Christmas episode all squeezed into one. We want to thank you all for listening. Welcome to season 6. We will be back with a bang. We'll see you guys soon.